Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. It's the 1st of May today and such a beautiful day that I thought it'd be perfect to head into the veggie garden. I've got some summer crops to finish harvesting. We've got some successional crops that we can have a look at. Also check out the winter crops, and I need to do a to-do list because there's so much to catch up on in the garden. I also thought it would be a great day to have a look around at the other things in the garden, such as my asparagus. I've got quite a number of plants in the garden that are all different ages. This one in May is still sending up shoots, which is a bit unexpected. I've got another plant over here that I sort of harvest from early in spring, and it's my oldest plant, so I'm still learning how much you can take from these plants without overdoing it. But I think with that plant I could have done a whole lot more harvesting. Also in the asparagus bed I've got strawberries, which tend to kind of die down a little bit during winter here with the cool temperatures. But I've also got my artichoke plants. Now, during summer they have their flowers and then the stalks kind of die off, and then I'll just cut them down, throw them to the ground and use it as mulch. But you get these beautiful shoots coming up again where the parent plant was. So they'll be flowering again come spring. Just across from my asparagus bed, I've got my capsicum and basil bed that produce beautifully in summer. I've got all the basil well and truly flowering and seeding. The sweet basil's been amazing, and this one was a cinnamon basil, which I really just grew for the flowers and the bees, which are still trying to get something out of these flowers. They were gorgeous in the garden and really had a lovely fragrance to them. But what we need to be harvesting in this garden bed is the capsicums. So I've got some long red capsicums, which are Marconi, and there's also some California Wonder that I can grab. I had some that turn red, and there was another little variety in here that was kind of the yellow fruiting variety. So I've already harvested quite a few of these, but there are some more that we can grab from this garden bed. Just a little one, but beautiful. It was very cold this morning, and I think the frosts aren't too far away, so I'll grab what's here, and I might even grab some green peppers as well, just to make sure we beat the cold weather. Also in this bed I planted some eggplant. It's just the long variety of eggplant, not the big sort of globe shaped one. Now, I haven't been very diligent at harvesting the eggplant, but there are still a few little ones that are kind of okay to go. That one's just in time, really. It sort of pales off as it starts to get sort of older. So it's probably better to harvest when they're sort of that darker purple. The eggplant I've often used just to chop up and put in stir fry with other summer veg. Just across the way from my capsicums and eggplants, I've got my beautiful chilli plants. They really came to life again in April with the wet weather we had. And now with a little bit of warmth, they're all growing again. But the beautiful thing on these plants is these gorgeous red chilies. There's heaps of them, which I don't always get in my climate. So these plants have done fantastically. Now this lot of chilies, which I won't be harvesting today, I am planning to make some fermented chili relish. That's a really wonderful condiment to have in the cupboard, and it's sort of just great on eggs or all sorts of different things where you want a hint of chili. Also coming to life with all the recent rains are lots of volunteer mustard plants. This one is Mizuna, sort of a frilly little mustard plant. And not far away we've got the endive, which also volunteers quite readily in my garden. But right here is another variety of mustard plant that just takes off, and I like to use just small leaves like that in mixed salads. Another reason why compost paths or even just wood chip paths are fantastic in the garden, because they promote this extra growth. These young leaves are just perfect in those mixed salads. While we're in this area of the garden, I thought we could take a look at some of my winter plantings. Just here I've got lots of bok choy, there's mustard plants, that beautiful maroon plant you can see in the foreground there. My broccoli is coming along. There's a number of broccoli plants in this garden and they're doing very well. I think I planted this sort of in late February. I've got some curly leaf parsley in here in a number of spots, and there are some other kale plants such as this Tuscan kale which will kick into life. It might have to wait till these other collies which are just here have finished, and then that will certainly get going. But all this garden is fairly closely planted. It doesn't seem to impact the broccoli too much. I think the collie sometimes can be a bit impacted if it's too closely planted, but I do like to experiment to push the boundaries a little bit with some of my plantings. But it doesn't hurt with the bok choy I've found, and that mustard plant, which is that maroon leaf. I don't mind containing that in a crowded space, because that plant does get quite big quite quickly and go to flower. So I find that it just sort of slows some of these plants down a bit and extends the harvest. Just here are shoots from some garlic that I failed to harvest last November. Now what it's producing is beautiful flavouring that you could harvest along with your winter greens and just use that to flavour up those dishes. So we can turn what was a failure of harvest into a success down the track. Moving through this space, there's plenty of Swiss chard all around the garden. It often self-seeds in different areas, as well as these red Russian kales. They seem to self-seed everywhere too. I've got various radish plants throughout here. Now, I haven't done too much in the garden of late, but I did manage to get my garlic planted, and that's in this bed here. I cleared it out of all the old winter plants and have put the garlic into this bed, and I've topped it up with a layer of compost. I haven't seen any of the garlic plants coming up as yet, but I don't think they'll be too far away. Now, I also cleared out the garden bed next to it, and I've decided just to put in a green manure in that garden. I've got these coverings over the top of it just so that my escapee chickens can't scratch it up or eat the seeds, and there's lots of little birds around that would also do the same. You can see here that there's quite a few of probably the oats that have germinated. I've got a green manure mix which is suitable for autumn planting in my climate, which I've put down. There's broad beans in here as well, which are a bit slower to germinate, but certainly some of these seeds are kicking in beautifully. So underneath that covering, you can see some of the seeds have started to grow well. Probably could have spread them out a little bit more evenly, but we've got some of the broad beans just starting to find their way into the soil. So hopefully they'll be taking off with the rest of these little plants soon. Now, one of the things on my to-do list is this little garden bed here. It has got some Brussels sprouts in it, which I planted many, many months ago. And the plant is only really just kicking into gear. These Brussels sprouts that are on here are just bigger than peas, so it's not been too productive. But I'll leave these plants in and see how they go. But I might just put in some of the green manure seeds all around it. With the lovely soaking rain in April, it sort of kick-started a lot of the seeds that are in the paths, and here we've got the beautiful mountain spinach, also called auric. It's a really lovely maroony colour and can be used just like a spinach, so I'll probably dig up some of these little plants from in the pathway and give them a safer place in which they can grow. Also growing in the pathways, which I can transplant around, are plenty of these little Swiss chard seedlings. Another win in the volunteer plants department is a little patch of leeks. So again, I'll be transplanting these to other areas of the garden where they can sort of grow a bit more successfully. Just looking across there to my tomato patch now, you can see what I need to put on my to-do list, and that's clearing some of those tomato plants. But the zinnias are still growing beautifully, so I don't want to hurry that along too much. Also on my to-do list is dealing with these nasturtium. If we do get a frost, that will quickly deal with them, but last year we didn't get the frost, so I can't assume that that's going to happen, and word is that we might still get another mild winter. Just in the middle there, it's got the beautiful endive flowers. That's part of the chicory family, and they blend in beautifully with the nasturtium flowers, which are still looking lovely in the garden. Just here, mixed in with some zinnia plants, I've got a big patch of curly leaf parsley, which of course is beautiful in a tabbouleh salad. A plant that I don't have to replant all the time, that does volunteers readily in my garden because of these beautiful little flowers and spreading of seeds, is radicchio plants. I just love the colour of these. They've got the crimson with the gorgeous green colour and really look beautiful in the garden, and they're really tasty in a salad. Usually for my videos, I tidy up the edge of this garden and cut down all this grass. But what I have to do, it's on my to-do list, is hand mow all of this grass. And it is a great ingredient for the compost path. Another thing on my to-do list, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit it, is rebuilding of my compost path. Now, I'm kind of pleased I waited because there were some great suggestions in the comments, so thank you to everyone who commented on that video. One of them was to mix the sawdust with grass clippings to see if that could help move along the decomposition of the sawdust, which still kind of remained unchanged in the pathway. So I think that was a really great idea. Also adding a bit more nitrogen in the form of urine if you've got that much to add. Lots of great suggestions, so I might be utilising those when I do get to rebuild this pathway. And if you haven't checked out that video, I'll leave a link for it here. Something that's really high on my to-do list is moving my chickens from their summer location underneath these beautiful shady trees out to where my pumpkins were growing, because that's a lot more sunny in winter and they can also clear all those greens, which they love to do. I do also love to put them through here to find any pumpkins that have been missed. What we're going to do today is actually get the pumpkins I can see before I move those chickens in the next few days. These pumpkin plants are well and truly finished, and we can definitely hunt down and harvest whatever pumpkins we can find. Well, there's a nice Tuscan kale in here. The chickens will devour that one in no time, and these other plants as well. Just looking around, there's lots of these brassicas. These are all just self-sown. I tend to throw seeding plants around these areas, and before my chickens move in, a lot of the seeds germinate and grow and just adds a bit more food to the area for the lovely ladies. There's also plenty of volunteer tomatoes. This one looks like a tigerella, which probably at this point in the season won't be ripening. But the ladies will have a pick at that one as well. So let's make a start at getting the rest of these pumpkins out here, starting with this little fella here. Now this pumpkin is a cross between a Jarrahdale and a butter pumpkin, and they're actually a perfect size little pumpkin for one. Now we just need to track down these little pumpkins, and my preferred method is just to be, oh, yep, there's one hiding under here. Ah, that one is well and truly needing to come out. That's actually rotted off. So that one should be used fairly quickly because that won't store very well at all. Here's some more volunteer chicken food. And just below it are a couple of small little pumpkins. And a couple more over here. Actually, here's another one. 3 little pumpkins. Now just in here somewhere, I did discover a buttercup pumpkin that I hadn't seen in my first pumpkin harvest, and it's been hiding in here. So we'll grab this one out, and there we go. Now also hiding in here is another one of our beautiful Turk's Turban pumpkins. And that is as gorgeous as all the rest of them. Now to just go chomping through here to see what other pumpkins we can find. Here's a couple. And another one. Well, that's all the pumpkins I could find for the moment, but I'm sure when I move my chickens in, they'll get another 1 or 2 out of this space. But I was surprised that I even found another little Jap pumpkin. So that's a great extra pumpkin haul. Now, a crop that I love to successionally plant is beans. I find that beans only last for so long, and it's hard to keep up with harvesting them enough to keep them growing really lushly like this. So I generally plant some more beans later in the season. Now, I think I planted these in February, and they're producing really well at the moment. I'm getting quite a few of these gorgeous lazy housewife beans off these plants. And if we don't have any severe frosts, I'll find that these plants keep producing throughout May. Another of my successional plantings that I like to do are zucchinis. Right here, I've got 2 zucchini plants. They're showing signs of powdery mildew, so they kind of won't be hanging around for too long. But you think you get sick of zucchini in the summer, but then it suddenly is gone. And it's always nice to have even just some tiny small zucchinis to add to some stir fries or make a frittata with. And that's what these 2 plants are providing. Just gorgeous little extra zucchinis. It's kind of like a bit of a bonus at the end of the season. Now, I've been talking a little bit about volunteer plants in the garden, and I just love to let them grow and spread them to where I need them. But some volunteers grow and I just leave them in place. Right here, I had a beetroot going to seed, and I wasn't sure whether the seeds would be viable. So I didn't save the seeds, but lots of seeds fell to the ground, and they've grown some beautiful crimson beetroot. Now, what I've just noticed here is our little friends, the rats, are getting to some of them. So I'm going to harvest a few of these to make sure that I also get some of these crops. So that is perfect. That's free food that's just grown by itself in the garden because I let it. Just next to these crimson beetroot plants, I've got the first of my celery, which I planted back in February or maybe in January. I'll leave a link to that video. And they're growing fantastically. Usually I'll just sort of harvest a stalk at a time when I need it, just to let these plants keep growing on further. Just here I've got a row that I can be harvesting from. On the other side of that trellis now, I've got my row of cabbages that I planted at the same time, and they're just starting to form their heads. I did have to protect these with some netting from the cabbage butterfly, but as you can see, they're starting to do their things beautifully now. This one down the end here was particularly damaged, but you wouldn't notice it. And you can see that heart is starting to form nicely. Next to the cabbages, I've got my bed of Swiss chard, which have been in the ground for a long time. I've been harvesting a lot of these leaves and just throwing it to my chickens. It's sort of really great to have extra food that you can share with your animals. The end one here is perpetual spinach, which really just looks like Swiss chard to me with a different name. And right next to it is some curly leaf kale. Again, I plant a lot of this sort of crop because it just keeps growing. You can pinch off the leaves and share it with your livestock. My carrot bed hasn't been totally eaten down by the rats as yet, and I'm harvesting lovely carrots from that patch. And just down the end of that bed, I've still got this bed of onion greens, which I plan on making some more onion salt because that stores beautifully in the cupboard for lovely onion flavour throughout the year. Some of them are still being eaten down by our little furry friends, but I'm still getting some pretty magnificent carrots out of this garden bed. At the start of May, I've still got some gorgeous flowers in the garden. In addition to my zinnias, I've got these California poppies. The borage are flowering beautifully, and my bees are just all over these plants. And I've still got some hollyhocks with all their crimson splendour. Well, that's the harvest done for today. Still plenty coming out of this autumn garden, but still plenty to come, as you can see, with all the winter plantings. Lots to do in the garden, but I'll be showing you that as I do it. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Bye for now. A little hard to spot in there. They're going to really enjoy their day today, I think. Come on, Truff. Come on. If there's any more pumpkins in there, this team will find them.